that we have
No,
better priors for
so I'm not.
resurrection.
No, no, no. I'm not talking about priors. I'm talking about specifically just historical positive claims for one hypothesis.
Okay, yeah, people have claimed that it's been that what explains this data that we're talking about, the martyrdom and the eyewitnesses and stuff like that. People have historically said it's resurrection, but that's what I'm contesting.
Yeah, so they've historically said it's resurrection. So providing
Yeah,
the alien hypothesis, you're just saying out of their ignorance, right? You're saying out of
I'm
their
just saying
ignorance.
that resurrection and the alien hypothesis have equal priors.
I haven't contested you on that.
Okay, well then I'm not so sure what our disagreement is, at least with respect to the prior probability and why. If they have the same priors, then what's the reason for adopting one theory over another?
The reason for adopting one theory over the other is because one of them is just more conspiratorial.
To me, how is resurrection not? What do you mean by conspiratorial? First of all,
I mean, conspiratorial in there is no positive data claims to represent it. There's no evidence.
I don't know what that means. What do you mean? There's no positive data on my view for the resurrection. It's that the data is underdetermined. In other words.
Well, that's only in your view, though. That's in your interpretation.
No. You agree with me that the data can be explained by aliens or by resurrection, either one.
It can be explained in terms of if you add on all of these other extenuating hypotheses.
Yeah, so the data is underdetermined, which means that
That's
there's
fine.
no
all you're doing though is you're just creating a game where you ultimately make sure you win, right?
I don't know how this is relevant to my claim. My claim is the data is underdetermined.
Here's what I'm saying.
If it's underdetermined, then the data underdetermines what you should believe about what explains it. If you agree with me that it's underdetermined, do you know what underdetermination means?
Are you talking in terms of underdetermined, Go ahead, explain to me. Just
briefly. If underdetermined data is data that doesn't specifically support one hypothesis or another out of the set of hypotheses that you're considering, right? So the martyrdom, the eyewitnesses, all this stuff. This is data, okay, and it's underdetermined because that data can be it's predicted on either hypothesis, the resurrection hypothesis or the aliens intervening. So if the data is underdetermined, then I don't know why you're saying that the resurrection has positive data and the alien hypothesis doesn't if the data is underdetermined.
Yeah, so I would just ultimately disagree with that classification.
Okay, maybe what classification?
That the data is underdetermined.
Okay, if you don't think it's underdetermined, that means that you think that there's something that the resurrection can explain out of the data that we agree on that the alien hypothesis doesn't, right? And so I'm interested in what data you're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would just say the data of representing Jesus as fulfilling the claim of godhood, like deity.
Wait, that's not the historical data that we've agreed upon, right? The data we're talking about is the martyrdom.
I mentioned that at the beginning of the conversation.
So at the very beginning of the conversation, you were asking me, hey, do we agree that this doesn't prove God's existence?
Yeah.
Right. And I have no problem agreeing to that. But it does give validity to the claim.
Sorry, I thought we were having a conversation about there's data and there's a set of data that we're going to agree upon, and then you're saying that resurrection best explains that data. So what is that data that you're saying that the resurrection best explains?
Well, I'm saying in terms of just talking alien hypothesis versus the resurrection hypothesis.
Right, but there's a set of data that you're saying the resurrection explains, right? And what is that data again?
I'm saying the data is, no, I'm saying the data is best explained by resurrection.
What is the data? I thought we agreed on some of the data here that people were dying for their belief that Jesus resurrected. That's some data, right? That there were eyewitnesses, which I contested, but I'm granting because I'm wondering where this is going. Okay, amongst other, I mean, what's the data that you want to explain? Other than those,
I mean, it was all the ones I presented earlier.
Yeah, I listed two. Is there any more than that?
So we talked about the expectation of the surrounding world. We talked about
How's that data? How does the resurrection explain that?
so the resurrection
Well-
explains that in terms of how it's actually being presented in testimony.
No, that's not that. That's not That's not an explanandum, right?
No, I
It's not
disagree.
something that.
I disagree.
Wait, but that expectation existed before the resurrection, so it can't be something that is being explained.
It can be explained in the text itself.
Do you understand that the sort of surrounding?
No,
Sorry, what?
What I'm saying is the fact that it was written down provides that it makes more sense historically that it's not fabrication. That's the explanatory power in it.
Well, now I'm confused. I'm comparing the alien hypothesis with the resurrection hypothesis, right? There's a set of data that you think that is explained by the resurrection and not explained by the alien hypothesis, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you appealed to the surrounding atmospheric expectation of the time, that exists whether there's resurrection or not. So it's not part of the explanandum.
So I would just disagree.
So you think the resurrection explains the expectation of resurrection?
No, I'm not saying it's circular. I'm saying that specifically having to do with the expectation of the surrounding world, it gives evidence for the claim in regards to that.
That might be true, but that's not the explanandum. Do you know what explanandum means? It's just the data that's being explained, right?
That is part of the data that's being explained. That's part of the data being explained.
No, because there's the expectation of resurrection can't be explained by the resurrection because there's that expectation before the resurrection. You can't
That
have
expectation wasn't there, though.
what?
It's not the expectation for the resurrection. I think you're misunderstanding that.
Okay.
The expectation of the surrounding world was not of the resurrection. That's why it has an
Okay, fine. The expectation for no resurrection to occur is not explained by the resurrection. It's not part of the explanandum.
When it's put into the actual text, when it's written down, when it's applied, when the claim is actually applied to the ancient world. So it's dissimilarity, right?
Do you
It's
know what an
just-
explanandum is?
Yes, you're saying that it is not explanatory within the data.
No. An explanandum is that which is being explained. The resurrection does not explain the non-expectation of resurrection, right?
So,
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying.
I'm presenting that as positive evidence for the resurrection in terms of the claim that's being made. That's what I'm saying it explains. I'm saying
Okay,
the data.
but what-
Listen.
I'm listening.
I think we're missing each other here. What I am saying is that the fact that the expectation of the surrounding world to the gospel, it gives evidence for the resurrection because of the claim that's being made. The claim is Jesus rose from the dead, right? The expectation of the surrounding world rejects that idea. And so because the claim is being made, historically, it gives it a probability that that is what was being claimed at the time. So it provides evidence for the resurrection in that sense. I think we're missing each other, and I don't want to.
I fail to see the relevance if what we were talking about was comparing the alien hypothesis and the resurrection hypothesis, and whether there was something novel predicted on the resurrection hypothesis as compared to the alien hypothesis. And to understand that question, you look at the explanandum. You don't look at, what you provided was not part of the explanandum. So the question is there anything in the explanandum, the data that needs to be explained, that the resurrection can pick out and not the alien hypothesis can pick out? And then if this case is that there's no part of the explanandum that's novel to one of the hypotheses, then the data, the explanandum that we're working with, is underdetermined. That means that
Not if you just get to make up your own rules on it, though.
I don't understand that response. Did you understand what I was saying?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.